do really relate to magic happening in Surrender Leadership, or like that's why I do it. That's why I've been so relentless doing it for nearly 15 years. It's because of my experience of magic. It's like it's the unveiling that happens of magic, but it's hidden in plain sight. It's not doing magic. It's like magic gets revealed. There's already magic here, but we were just veiled to it.
The container is now open. On today's episode, we have a returning guest of great stature and import, none other than the John Thompson. You'll remember last summer we had this epic 3-episode arc where John Thompson taught us about surrendered leadership and about working with trauma in the practice space, and also just about the history of transformational connection and how he and Sean kind of formed this new spiritual path, which I know, being at the Transformational Connection Festival last year, and then getting to interview tons of the people you all have trained, and then, getting to spend time with you. It's like there is no doubt in my mind that Transformational Connection is like the place. This is like where you go to be on the path of the relational arts. Like this is where the people at the highest levels are practicing, and it's very exciting to get to talk to you, John, because just like being around you and Sean and Marcia and Peter, it's like, whoa, this is like real. And so we have like a big juicy conversation coming up, but before we do that, I just want to give a quick shout out to our patrons. They went to patreon.com/thecontainer, and they put down small monthly donations, which help run the show. And I think with that starting from a place of gratitude to our patrons and the incredible, beautiful, mystery school that is Transformational Connection, I want to hand it over to you, John, to tell us about some of the weird places you're bringing the relational arts these days.
Well, thanks for that introduction. I'm quite touched and honored by what you've said, and it's still kind of sinking in me. And we were talking before you press record about I've had a busy summer, and one really cool place I took these practices was to mediators. Like a big kind of conference / festival for mediators, and it was mainly like lawyers and barristers, and like there was a mayor from a borough of London was there, and it was smart people, but people who hadn't done much meditation or were necessarily into spirituality. And I did 4 sessions over 4 days with them. And it really took me on a journey of like, how am I going to bring this in a way that's honoring and authentic? And I actually started by asking for their consent, which is something I've never done before. I think it was the night before I was arguing with someone about connection being more powerful than the idea of consent or something. And then the next morning I opened this big kind of workshop with asking them for consent, and it just felt really nice to engage with them from where they were and where like afresh, like not taking anything for granted. And each day was completely different. Like one day I did kind of more structured or traditionally. Another day I just showed them my shame as soon as I came on the mic, and I went into this little child and I started hiding in front of them. And a few of them were like, what the hell is going on? And then I didn't know what was going to happen, but I then kind of wove it to be like, yeah, who knows what's going to come up when we do these practices, and it's okay, whatever comes up. And then there was like a sigh of relief in the room that they kind of realized where I was going with it, even though that wasn't my plan. It was kind of just a surrender to like what came up when I was on the microphone in front of them. But I was amazed on the last day we went into surrendered leadership together, and it was as magical a space as ever, like life changing, kind of altered reality. And yeah, really beautiful personally to go on that journey of bringing it to a different genre of people, you could say. And similar when I worked with a renewable energy tech firm in London, did a full day with their leadership team, and that was similar. And yeah, very beautiful actually, and like humbling in a good way. Like it doesn't let me use the kind of words that those of us who do it a lot are used to doing, and it kind of keeps me sharp about what it's actually about. And I'm excited, like I'm excited and confident that if it's like contexted in the right way, or if it's like made available to people in the right way in languaging that speaks to them, that there's just a lot more people can benefit from what we love and benefit from.
That really reminds me of this awkward moment when we're trying to teach surrendered leadership practices to new people, where it's like, um, I can't really describe it for you in a couple words or in a couple sentences. There's like, the way I often think about it is it's sort of like riding a bike where it's just like once you get on balance and at speed, you can kind of like, then you get it and then you'll always know how to do it. But yeah, I'm gonna have to like push you or something or tell you what not to do. But then hearing you have these experiences, which where you're bringing relational arts to people who, aren't necessarily like have been through years of like somatic energy healing, and they're not necessarily far out and like know all of the lingo. Yeah, it has me wonder if you've honed sort of language that really works, for like a brief introduction to what transformational connection actually is, and then if you could share it with us here.
I have
If only.
I have this sense that John is using a completely different set, like a set of language for each of these groups that sort of is like based on some sort of watching and listening and like, trying to meet them where they are.
Does that sound true?
Yeah, and I guess the languaging is a part of it, but I think it's more me showing up properly,
Yes, yes.
like, and going on my own version of surrender in relation to these people, which is scary as fuck every time. So it's, yeah, they can feel that it's coming from an authentic place in me, whatever I talk about. Like I ended up talking about tennis quite a bit, I think, when I started with the business audience. But that wasn't pre-planned. It can go anywhere, but it's about me really relating and being honest. And then it's just about tracking how they engage with the practices and finding the right level of engagement for them. Or like with one group, I let like a lot of kind of normal conversation happen during the practices, and it just felt good to me. It felt like this is connection, for that this is the best I could possibly imagine connection happening between them right now.
Right. Yeah.
Are they strictly following what I've offered? No. Did they engage it initially? Yes. And then it's kind of moved into something else, and like just, yeah, not holding it too tightly. um, and letting it unfold.
That was a beautiful answer.
Mm.
Thank you. I was getting full body chills as you were giving that. I was like, yes, yes, yes. It just felt so, yeah, we've noticed this thing like the more resourced we are, the better we're arriving into the space and like really holding the field. Like it's not, it's like I keep saying it's a vibe. Like,
Right.
it
Like,
is a vibe. It's not you, there's so many ways that you can use words, and we've done that for 2 years on this podcast. Like, here's a lot of words of what this practice or practices like it could be. But it ultimately comes down to this this vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed there's some other thing. I feel that's really true. Like, when we're having events, it's not a sum of the words that we use to introduce it. It's like the soup that we've made that's pretty much cooked by the time people are walking in. It's like actually, yeah, you can like you're saying, it's like if I'm resourced and I'm really here and present, that means more than the words I produce. But then
yeah,
the writer in me is like, well, but it would be nice to have really good fucking words. Like that's also so
yeah,
sick.
yeah.
And that there's like a um I think they're because the words are like this technical thing, I think there's a part of me that really like enjoys there's like a tinkering opportunity there that sort of feels fun and like,
Yeah.
squirrely and like, yeah.
Exactly. Like I feel inspired now to like try and say it again. Like what is surrendered leadership and what and the opportunity to find clearer and better words over and over again. And I've actually been kind of observing it in a weird way. Like the last couple of SASs I've done, I've been leading a lot recently, and I've just been kind of at certain points just kind of popping into observer mode and like, what is actually going on here?
Hmm.
Like, what what is this? And it's been really um, powerful, like what I've been witnessing, and it feels like some kind. Should I describe it? What
Hmm.
it's like. I get this turning shape, which I've got before, which I think I don't know if it's transfiguration. That's not a very simple word to start with, but there's some kind of like everybody learns to be very present and really drop in with each other and reveal what's happening for themselves and be curious about each other with some kind of spirit of learning about what's happening for each other, about growing, like holding space for each other and ourselves in all the vulnerable things that come up when we actually connect and when we're actually honest and sensitive to ourselves about what's going on. And when a group is kind of comfortable in that, like happens normally in an SAS after a while, it's like everything kind of like snowballs in a way. It's like it's almost like exponential what can happen in the group because it's like when this person real starts to become more honest, then it inspires that from someone else, and then you get this collective where everyone feels they're a part of it, they're comfortable, and they're in their own flow in relation to the whole group, and we could go anywhere, like anything can happen, you can just take a break. It's quite some for some it's very light, for others they're having like incredibly deep emotional releases, and all that's happening in the same room, and everyone's just in their essence in a way, like moving. And I don't know, I just get this energetic of this happening, and like wow, the amount of stuff that's going on without anyone leading it essentially, or without anyone like directing it. It's so cool, and it feels like a movement. It feels like it has a community element and a movement element, and it's like humans realizing what we can do together, what can happen together. And once we find that groove, then there's no stopping us.
Hmm.
And
Mm.
we've got the festival next week with like 150 people, which is the like by far the biggest we've ever done. And I'm like, can we
Oh,
get into that state with 100 and we've got 151, I think, is capacity. And like, can we somehow get into that groove with all of us? And what will that lead to? Because it's as if it will carry on after the event in some way. Like we all,
yeah.
yeah,
I have like the jealousy yearning coming up about the festival, hearing all those people together. When we went last year, I we went to Paris afterwards, and then I had like a full conversion experience after, just like days after it, which I really credit to the opening that happened in like a field where you're so open to connection that you're training yourself to, in my experience, that you can be so tuned into relating that it goes way beyond relating to other human beings. It's like the full mystical opening is available through there of like every little thing is a fellow being in a way. There's it's mm,
I think having so many, like being part of such a large group, it opened my perspective to see the groups of people as in that state, but with just like more chaos, like more entropy. Like for example, we were at my son's little birthday party and there were all these children and they were all in a little line and they're like 4 years old and they all climb into the bounce house and they were all bouncing around and we were watching through the window and I was like, this is surrendered leadership. Like they are doing it. And they were like, they would get close and like move away and then one kid did something and then the other kid started crying and then everyone kind of moved away from them, the one crying, and then everything just kind of dissolved and they all left the bounce house together and it was like this this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is it. And then the painting at the Louvre, what was the well,
yeah,
it has a bad name, but
yeah.
it was just this incredible painting that it was the attitudes and the poses of everyone in the painting were describing the practice of surrendered leadership. It just
Yeah.
you see it everywhere. It's, if you're looking with this like kind of, it's like a lens or a aperture or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
yeah. That was something else last year. I think that's. I mean, I always go on a what feels like a soul adventure or a deep soul experience every festival, but last year's in particular, it felt I got more impacted than normal, and I've met a lot of people months later who were impacted more than normal, and I think that's why we sold out so quickly this year, as if like something's building on last year's,
Hmm.
and like yeah, how it's not as if we can guarantee that's going to happen, that it's going to be like one of those paintings, but like that's yeah, that's what it at its best. It's like that. It's like somehow the constellation forms in that way, and we're all just having this incredible opening and realization together.
Just hearing us talking right now, I'm just appreciating as if for the first time, like there is nothing cooler to do with your time. I don't know how people get into other interests. This is just obviously the coolest way you could do it. I don't I don't what are other people even doing?
Well, what about I'm like wanting to talk about the difficulties, like
Mm,
anger and um, conflict uh,
Eros.
and Eros. Yeah. And because I mean, just for myself, I think I was so conflict averse before I started um, practicing relational arts. I now like it's like a moth to a flame. It's like what is here? I want, especially when it's in a practice space. It pulls me in, and I want to. It's one of the most compelling things that could happen, I
Mm.
think, and that's just interesting that I used to do anything I could to get away from anything that could even possibly turn into 5 steps down the road conflict, you know.
Yeah.
And I would be predicting like, oh, this could happen, you know.
I love that. Even potential conflict is scary
Yeah.
when you're scared of conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you bring that, and it feels really important that that's kind of put alongside the ecstatic painting. Like we only
Yeah.
get to be in that ecstatic painting when we've met the parts of ourselves that have been too difficult to face before. And when we get into deep connection with others, like the territories that we meet in ourself and others can get so complex and challenging and messy and unknown. And yeah, like we were speaking before the call, like we as an organization are super interested in like sharing the wisdom, essentially the practices, the insights, the maps that can help people orient to when they get super angry in a circle, or when needs are showing up that feel like a 2-year-old and they feel like the neediest person in the room and they're just full of shame about that.
Mm.
And then it's like, okay, what are you going to do now when you're just completely covered in shame? Or like blame is coming up, or you're just feeling so much eros and like turn on and love and opening, and you don't know what to do with it, and you don't know if it's okay. Or yeah, conflict. There's just so many, or like you feel some sense that a boundary got crossed and you don't even know how or what to do about it. Like these are not just things that happen in a circle, but happen in life. And it's not like we've got answers. Like I was in such a mess yesterday in such anger and like not doing it very skillfully, and like it doesn't feel like we really solve things. But then if I think of the wisdom that I do have now, and like the maps compared to 10, 15 years ago, and how useful it is to have like at least 5 ideas of what to do when anger comes up in me, like 5 strategies, like what does this anger want, just getting like honoring whatever anger comes up, and then like, yeah, what does it want and what does it actually feel like, and can I walk away from this person and be with myself and resource myself while this is here? Or there's just so many things that you can do with anger, and I've done quite a few videos on it. I've gone quite deep into that, and often it's because needs are coming up in you, or shame's coming up in you, and the anger's trying to protect you from going there. Or there's so many different things that you getting angry can be. And then there's so many opportunities from there to either really fuck up a relationship or like integrate aliveness and energy in you that you haven't known before. Like I'm 47 now, and I feel like primal energies and aliveness that I've never felt. And that's because of having integrated a lot of my primal anger and energy. And it's incredible. It's like how it's a dream to get to live this stuff like in my 40s. So there's so much opportunity, and just things with needs, just the idea of like, hey, be careful labeling neediness. Like needs are beautiful. Needs take you to the depths of your soul. Like don't shame your needs. Don't call yourself needy. Just try and try and stand for your needs. Like that's huge. And yeah, it's normal to get super vulnerable as our armors come down. There's like all these needs, and it's so vulnerable. And then I'm like, with this, I'm like, yeah, and it's also okay if you don't feel anything at all. Like, I've been numb, and there's still lots of parts of my body are numb, and like, can we just be present to the numbing process and honor that and realize the tenderness that's in us? It's like there's so much richness that comes up that we're not, yeah, that isn't spoken about in that many contexts. And we want, so in surrendered leadership, yeah, it can just flow for people, and then at a certain point you'll realize that, oh God, I like, there's a whole world about boundaries that I didn't realize. That's what happened to me and Sean. We suddenly realized we were just taking so much shit from people. Like, we were just being okay with people treating us in a way we would never treat anyone else. And it was like, oh, it's actually good to lead people not to treat me like that. One, because it feels way better for me, and it's like, that's not good. I don't believe that's a good thing for them to be walking around in the world being like that. Why was I like taking that before under some virtue of like commitment to connection, or like, oh, I can just be with anyone where they are? And
Mhm.
there's a beauty to that. Like, there's still a deep honoring of someone wherever they are and a willingness to stay in. But then there's also, what do I actually need in this connection for myself? And can I lead this connection towards that? And have, and yeah, and in the rare instances when that isn't met, then yeah, what am I going to do about it?
Well, the yeah, I'm wanting to like pause there because before the call when we were you were kind of listing out like these doorways that like open up in the practice, and anger and Eros really stuck out for me as like, oh yeah, those are like really juicy. But it's interesting as you're mentioning boundaries, I'm noticing that for me that's actually like such a difficult thing to navigate in the practice space, and especially in my personal relationships with people who ongoing connection is important to me, that I've now slowly created this identity of like I'm efforting to relate. I'm like staying in the room and I'm doing what I can to relate, and I'm gonna like build connection or try to be in connection or like stay in and find the richness that's here. And for some, the real difficulty that hits on is knowing how to enforce boundaries. It's like for me, my experience is like, oh wait, you've I can tell in my system about like my boundary has been crossed, but I don't know how to enforce that or like enforce like like I'm a border patrol or something. But like I don't know. I often find myself at a loss to know like how to maintain connection and boundary and not be in collapse, basically. Like that is this eternal, seemingly eternal, confusing like Sphinx riddle.
Yeah. Totally. And like, I've even got something going on now. Like, I think after I said commitment to connection previously, I think there was some shame, and I can feel like a very subtle way I'm self-sabotaging myself now, which is something I've got more and more aware of just like this tiny micro drops of self-sabotage. It's like a protection, it's an armor. So and I can feel some shame. So it's like right now I'm kind of in a kind of messy territory. I feel like I'm in the dark, but I've got a spotlight of like, okay, shame. It's okay to feel shame. I don't have to believe it. I can just feel it. Like, and self-sabotage, I don't have to make that wrong. It's like there's innocence behind it. Like I feel a need to protect myself. Like, oh, then there's some anger, and there's fear. I mean, there's a threat somehow. Like, oh, maybe I'm going to get attacked. I'm exposing myself. People are going to watch this. I want to hide and shrink away.
You know, for what it's worth, I'm reading. that book, Getting Our Bodies Back. What is the
Christine Caldwell.
yeah.
Something like that.
And so this is where I've been doing thinking around boundaries, is the way that she describes it, the way she describes boundaries, um, and to think about them in terms of like on the cellular level, like that a cell in your body um, can operate in different ways. Like it can be fully merged with what is on the outside. So it can just be like, kind of in, I guess we would call that collapse in a way, or merge,
Mm.
or codependency, maybe like that's another way to look at it. And then there's contact, which is interesting. Like that's the one that stands in the fulcrum between merge and like the intense wall. So there's this permeability. I don't know. And you had said earlier, John, like about movement, like that it's kind of this movement of like, what am I letting in? Oh, that's too much. Okay, like and yeah, that's what's coming.
That is really interesting. I noticed earlier when I was like framing boundaries as something I enforce, there was this sort of ACAB attitude that came up like, wait, I don't want to be like Border Patrol policeman being like, rah, 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 these are not the rules. I noticed there's an ickiness in my system of like, thinking of boundaries is like this is the rule, and if you break the rule then I don't have to play with you anymore and you're in trouble. And there, or like there is this sort of
Yeah.
legalism that's not actually how boundaries are productive. They're productive when we have a little cross-cultural, cross-border, we have little border towns where, you know, yeah.
Love your
I'm
story.
losing the metaphor wildly, but yeah.
No, I get it and I like it. And I resisted using the word boundaries for so long. Like me and Sean kind of had our insights around boundaries together quite strongly a couple of years ago. And I was so resistant to use the word boundary because even thinking it in that way can like, oh, these are my boundaries and I need to enforce them and you're not following my boundaries and da 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 and I've got a
Yeah.
boundary. There's just so many traps. Like there's traps with everything, but with boundaries, it's like, so I try and I fall into those traps all the time still. And I prefer it like thinking about it like leadership, like leading others to treat me the way that I want to be treated. And it's
Mm,
about learning about my needs. And normally if I can keep it on that level, everything just goes amazing. Like there isn't trigger, it's just smooth. But then sometimes it does feel a bit more charged and it does seem like someone isn't respecting the boundaries, and then that's when the border patrol can come up, and that's an edge of unknown for me as well. It's like part of me just thinks the whole border patrol is me losing it, like losing contact with something that's available, that's calmer and easier and like connective. But then the other side, it just feels really good to feel like, oh yeah, I can protect and I will protect. And like there's some things that I will stand for and there will be a border patrol. Like if these things are crossed and not, I want to make sure that if they are being crossed, I'm seeing that clearly and I'm not like imagining it. But at the same time, I want to like be spontaneous and like react strongly if something has crossed my membrane and is repeatedly crossing my membrane. And like I have had quite liberating experiences where I like got pretty angry with someone pretty quickly and like what like I remember in a gym the person who worked there just spoke to me in a certain way. I didn't have shoes on and he spoke to me in such a way and I just like burst out back like don't patronize me. And but it felt so good to just, and they were like, I'm sorry, yeah, it was. And for me, I'm like, wow, I didn't know I had that in me. It was just like this spontaneous, and it's kind of rare when that's the best way or something, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it's like, no, don't give me this. I'm worthy of respect. I'm worthy of my experience being honored. Like, treat me with respect. And I'm going to treat you with respect. Like, let's both treat each other with respect here. And that's the leadership.
Mm.
Hmm. Something that's bringing out in me is this like, yeah, like a member of a crowd who's being like riled up.
Yeah.
But it's such tricky territory.
Right. Well, that's yeah, that I notice my experience has often been that when I go into hot anger registers, later on it's um maybe 99% of the time it was not the right move. It was just objectively by any measure, it was like that. It always appears the right thing to do at the time. And there's this satanic little like, come, this is the right way. And then you do it, and then almost immediately you realize I am the one in the wrong now, or how long has it been this way? And that there are those that experience set or like the attitudes that experience set has given rise to really identifies with the part you're talking about where we go, maybe there's a calmer way to solve this, or how can I find the jujitsu move where we actually tumble into deeper intimacy and sweetness and connection, and we're thanking the anger for what it opened up in us of love. And yeah, and then there is this like there's this other more traditional part of me that does have this conviction in the good, the beautiful, and the true. And that there are just times where righteous anger
Yeah.
is grounded in something real and that I'm not going to let go of. There's sometimes there is a Sauron to defeat. That is true, right? But then the other part of me says no, Saurons are you're making someone a Sauron.
Right.
You're turning a Gandalf into a Sauron because you're yeah. Ah.
Jonathan's been reading Lord of the Rings.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel. Yeah, the way you
Yeah.
described it. But and remembering, like, it's so common for people to have huge protection mechanisms around their anger. Like, people don't even think they're angry because there's just so much personality structures that have been developed to not have them feel anger because of that could break the attachment relationship or get them into conflict. Or so it is an important message to be like, look, learn to be a yes to your anger. Like, yeah, maybe it's a kind of triggered anger that you don't want to communicate to someone, but still be a yes to it because there's going to be some gold in it in some way. But definitely in the early days for me, there was tons of gold in my anger. There was like a lot of that kind of righteous anger, or like it had so much clarity in it. And it was really strange to learn to bring it in connection and then have people like, oh, I trust you so much more now that you've brought that anger, and like, oh, it's a relief. And I was like scared that I might have ended the whole relationship for my anger.
Mm. But what comes up for me is a relationship I'm about to spend several days with. I'm about to go on a family trip where I'll be spending a lot of time with family, and a family that talks a lot about politics, and that there's this evergreen conflict in our family around politics, not among them, but me and then all of them. That's often the like battle line throughout my life has been that, and that there's yeah, there's this way that even as I'm going into days with them, I if I start leaning into those thoughts, I start to get almost physically sick with this sense of how do I right size my rootedness in the good, the beautiful, and the true, and being honest about what my values are when conversation arises, and then right sizing that to maintain a connection and to also to not get sucked into the maya of political debate and the way that things like politics appear so important in the in the game of the conversation, and then yeah, it's almost like again, it's a satanic design to like, yes, come debate, get angry. Yeah, so I'm really hearing what you're saying and noticing that the rubber is going to hit the road for me on a lot of this very soon. And my system is almost it feels ill or weak and like scared or something that I'm not going to know how to do it the right way. The right way. I'm receiving your care right now through your eyes. I'm feeling, yeah, that there's some resource coming your way or coming my way from you.
I see your eyes getting wet.
Mm.
What's it like for you both now? It's sweet to witness that, and I'm curious what's happening now in you both after that interaction.
Yeah, there's something about the wave of energy I received through your eyes that felt as if it closed the lid, not stuffed down the things that were coming up, but sort of closed the lid and patted me on the back. Something along those lines where it feels contained or sort of ready to be let back into the deep well of my interior.
Here's your pat on the back. It was as you were reporting the care that I was giving, it was like energizing it in me where I was like, yeah, that is what I'm doing. And it felt like it was like um turning it into more like of a almost like a magical kind of moment of like, yeah.
Mm.
Uh and then as I saw your eyes tear up, mine were tearing up and it was just this, yeah, the way that was happening was something about,
Eros.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that naming there's a little yeah naming action that creates a fun frame.
I was gonna say water.
Mm. Hmm.
I don't know. Like water,
Oh,
just this water in our eyes, and then I like feel this heat on me with like a little bit of sweat. I don't know. Yeah.
I like too how the that metaphor of boundary, of cellular boundary, like osmosis is water leaping over boundary, or there's some sort of like watery, really like lowering the gates to be in a
Yeah.
single system for a while. So water has something to do with that.
Hmm. Wow. Mm.
What are you experiencing, John?
it was like the love and the Eros kind of the water washed over me, and then it's like feeling heat, feeling naked, feeling Eros aliveness, some fear. like, oh, what's going to happen? Suddenly it's like I'm hot and naked. Like almost drooling, like, ah, and it's just me. Like I'm just in me. It's like the Eros of life in its, yeah, fullness of presence.
Mm.
And it has an erotic quality to it. It's like it's blissful.
I feel very dropped into this moment and also experiencing this like for a minute there, it felt like the room temperature increased like 10 degrees. From here up, just heat like pouring, wafting off of me.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? Mm.
Right now, I'm sort of in this. I noticed the speed is starting to pick up in my system. I'm starting to go back into sort of
What's next?
picking up, well, not so much what's next, but being here in this faster language mode of analyzing and thinking about Eros as a force and as a presence in the relational field. And oh, yeah, and how do we work with that and surrendered leadership and there's a this speed up and back into the okay. Whew. Like yeah, feeling the processing part sort of get turned down and this other part geared back up. Hmm.
It's so cool to have like a blissing. It's like a MDMA or like a just total high feeling coming, like during the podcast, and like, oh yeah, this is what can happen in these practices, like the ecstasy of just connecting with other humans. Like, that's
Let's
my.
talk about Eros today. Whoa.
Uh,
Ah. Mm.
As I'm tuning in to John, to you, there's some sort of channel of warm, fuzzy bliss thing. There's some channel opening up for me, like I'm getting wafts of that you're experiencing.
These ideas around eros and sexuality are, it's like I think it's my favorite theory from like the last 10, 15 years that I've learned. It's like the coolest way to slice up reality that I've come across. Because it's like this experience that I'm was in. Maybe I'm drowning it out by talking, and I should just go back to the bliss. But it's like a sexual experience, or like a mild sexual experience without it. We're not having sex, and it's not actually a sexual experience. So it's eros, and it's actually about full connection and aliveness and depth and presence and surrender. And the idea is that, like, if we try and have sexuality meet all our erotic needs, all our needs for eros, it will always collapse. So we need to like try and live erotically, like live from eros. And but sex teaches us about eros, like it teaches us the keys of what eros is, like presence, connection, surrender, aliveness, spontaneity. Like it teaches us about the secrets of life, and so it's super important. And that framing for me, I love it. It like makes sex more interesting and exciting. It takes pressure off sexuality, and it gives me more access to eros. And we see this happening. People just having these highly pleasurable openings.
I noticed there's some interesting danger that opens up when I think about Eros that is so different when I think about conflict or anger in connection. There is this sort of obvious danger around anger, and then there are these hidden doorways that it actually is opening up that are these alternatives that feel really actually connecting and mind expanding and beautiful in their own way and leaderful even at times. And then Eros, to me, it has this other quality where the danger is the more hidden part or something. And I notice as even the prospect of Eros entering a space comes in, I often have this experience of wariness and caretaking for others and projection that everyone needs to be caretaken around this entering the space. So we might just not have it enter the space then even like this sort of projection of my own needs around it or something. I'm speaking from not really from this moment. I notice I'm speaking from past experiences and as sort of a yeah, wanting to harvest teaching from you, John, around this in the space, especially in a practice context where, people have signed up to your meetup and they're headed over to the yoga studio to come practice surrendered leadership with you, and you don't know them from Adam.
I want to say something first before, which is as I'm thinking about like the way you were just describing Eros, John, and I'm thinking about like my whole lifespan and it's it really brought me to this moment in my life, which was right before I became sexually active, but I was like, it was like puberty years, where every connection I had was like the way you're describing Eros,
Mm-hmm.
where like even just hanging out with my girlfriends at the mall was like this, it was like there was a sexual feeling to that, like the excitement of like being with people, with my friends, and like having experiences with them, and there was this, and then I like follow that, and then shame, for me shame like kind of starts to come in. um I'm not I could like go into specifics, but yeah, shame starts to kind of cloud that purity um of that like non-sexual sexual connection with people. uh
I've never heard a better description of being a teen. I feel so brought back to what it felt like to hang out and just to be a teenager.
And it wasn't bad. It's not like,
Whoa.
oh, it's bad, but that it's like pure. It's
Mm-hmm.
pure. And that's like what I'm hearing John describe is like getting back to this pure connection where it's like, we don't have to fuck. Like, we're just like really here together
Mm.
and like feeling it everywhere in our body, like including in our genitals sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, it's interesting that you both link it to teenage years, and I get the idea of like second innocence, and definitely like I've had that experience of like, oh, this is like, wow, I had so much aliveness when I was 11 and it was this, and I feel that again now, and it's so amazing to kind of, I'd forgotten like how good it was to feel that alive, and now as an adult it actually feels like wiser or something, like to love in this way. And it doesn't mean that it needs to be a romantic connection or something, but like something I can reclaim from those years, like an innocence and excitement about life. But as also as it sits with me like this, the energy I get is even like father energy or grandfather energy or elder energy. Like it turns into like this deep resource and just okayness about life. And yeah, I feel like this kind of elder quality to allow others to live, like, and contribute where I can. But like, yes, so much of life is going to go on without me. But that still has this Eros quality of depth and peace and being plugged into life. And yeah, maybe it's more an agape type feeling. And the labels don't, it doesn't really matter, but it's like just blissful, grounded, everything's okay, nothing, everything's going to be okay. And the provocateur in me, I remember doing the, I've done some workshops on Eros, and of course, people get touched in stuff like you did, Jonathan. And then I always want to know, like, oh, what's the quality of that? Is it hot? Is it like, is there an existential kink there? Is it like, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to, and like you can kind of go into whatever's coming up and feel like the Eros quality of it.
Mm. Right. Eros is big enough to enjoy that meal too. Yeah. I noticed there's this rhythm that I've explored and practiced before that is coming up for me now where there's this quality of melt to Eros, of total relax and surrender. And to some degree, to get to melt, there is this eye of the needle of anxiety or constriction before we get to melt. And a way I think of it is sort of I need to have a spike of anxiety to be making sure everything is safe before I go into melt. And depending on the day and the, caffeine amount or the whatever has been going on, that spike might be much higher or experiences as sharper or as less intense. But there's this sort of checking in with I'm about to go into melt and that's going to be very vulnerable and so I need to have one last little look-see. Uh and yeah, and that can be often for me if we're about to go if the room is about to go into a cuddle pile. I'll notice even before I'm tracking that that's about to happen, I'll often start my anxiety will start to really peak and often when the cuddling begins to happen, I just feel I'm obviously a no to being a part of this, and that's probably not where my evening is going to turn. And then that anxiety, there's something like the anxiety goes down, and then I'm ready for melt. I just needed to have that. Yeah, I'm curious if that rhythm is do some people get that, or is that actually part of the rhythm of Eros?
Hmm.
I relate a lot to it, and there's something about like the okaying of it rather than like, oh, I'm vigilant, I wish I could melt, or there's something about like, oh, here's that phase in the wave or something. And yeah, I really relate to it. Sometimes like I feel like I need to set an alarm or something to remind me to come back to life or
Hmm.
but yeah, waves of vigilance and then like vigilance letting go or something.
Vigilance kind of shows up in me as like ex intense excitement that like becomes this kind of thing that pops and screams and has like
Hmm.
a whole thing. That seems like I don't even mean for it to, I don't mean for, I don't plan for it. But this has like become a pattern for me in the practice space, which it's like a gathering. It feels like it's a gathering of the nervousness or vigilance or energy or excitement of the field, and then it just like and then it's like a volcano and it just goes like that, and then I'm like really present, but the volcano has to explode. It's like, yeah, that has to
Hmm.
happen before I can just be more kind of,
That sounds to me in rhythm very similar to the clenching and sort of
yeah,
feel good frustration of build up to an orgasm.
yeah.
And then a volcano exploding to me has some clear metaphorical connection to an orgasm. And then, yeah, it's funny that it's actually the post-orgasm state that is the melt. And
Hmm.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I'm seeing there's quite an erotic choreography to what you're talking about.
Hmm. For sure.
Yeah, I get again this feeling of like the yesing of the anxiety or the it 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 reminds me of actually the build up to before when surrendered leadership was born. I might have
Yeah.
told you this last time, but like it was, I think it was like the sixth or seventh weekend event we had ever led. And for some reason, I just had crazy anxiety leading up to it. Like for days, I was just like, what is going on? And I speaking to my close friends and be like, it's so uncomfortable. Like I almost like my heart rate keeps going up and like, is there something wrong with me? Should I not be leading this? And then, yeah, a bit like you described, once the event started, it just opened and like all that energy just turned into aliveness and surrender, and all this stuff happened. And also like last year when I was on the stage at Mind Valley at the opening, and it was like 500 people, and like I got a lot of anxiety in the build up to that. Like some nights I'd wake up heart rate, but I didn't make it wrong. It was like, no, this is preparing me and like showing me what I'm really scared of, and like me kind of coming to terms with it and planning it. And then I did get in a flow when I got on the stage, which was a dream for me as someone who has been anxious and has struggled in those type of things. And a lot of it was just like the yes to the anxiety, like, and feeling what that is, and like trying to get its messages. And often it's a ton of aliveness that's like ready to burst out. And
Hmm. Something that is coming up for me as sort of hearing the echoes of the entire conversation is, for one, just how a single practice can be so effective at so many high tonnage explosive parts of, or potentially explosive parts of life. And that when I hear you talk about, um, when I hear you talk about being a yes to the anxiety or whatever is coming up, I hear so much of the medicine that transformational connection and surrendered leadership have given me, where I end up being able to welcome things, and just in the welcoming, just in being surrendered to it, that alone is enough to all of a sudden, oh, this is medicine. It's, well, what, there couldn't be a bigger paper tiger. Yeah, it's so just, it's hilarious. And often, right before I realize surrender is even an option, I'm in so much resistance. And it feels so impossible to be in anything other than resistance, that the moment I surrender, there's often this laughing, like, dough, like, yeah, dough quality to,
Nope.
yeah.
and you two are coming to do the London SAS
Hmm.
a month's time.
Yes.
That's right.
3.5 weeks or something.
Yeah,
I guess it is a month.
yeah, maybe we could dive into that here in our last chapter of the conversation. SAS is sort of, like, for the listener, SAS is, as far as I understand it, Transformational Connections' main teaching program
Training.
or
Yeah, main
training.
training for those who want to facilitate these practices, or those who just want to deepen in it, or and go on a 6 month transformational adventure.
Hmm. That's the second one, is the one. I'm not one for certifications, only because in most of my life I've never had the money to pursue them. So when you don't have the money for them, you build the attitude of, you
I
don't need
don't
to be
need
certified. Yeah, but then, the prospect of not just like getting, it feels really good to get, um advanced practitioners' eyes on how we're facilitating. That feels really good to bring eyes in and yeah, that feels really juicy. And then also the prospect of going over to Europe several times and being in practice spaces with you and other people who are drawn to this and yeah, and also as I say that, I have this sense that the other people in our cohort are going to be we're going to get really close to them potentially. I have these close friends I don't even know swimming around right now and then the materials. So I just want to gush a little bit for the listeners. The materials when you sign up for the SAS training include fiction and um, yeah, which
Media, like
media
movies.
and which has always been something I really desire is to chew on things through story and art.
Yes.
And I love technical stuff, and you have lots of writing. You also have these videos of these young men teaching. They're these boys, these beautiful boys teaching
It's all
us.
going to be replaced soon. There's some super old stuff on there.
Y'all must have recorded it in 1998 or something. I don't know. Y'all seem just so young, but it's awesome. There's video and there's writing and there's yeah, I just want to gush a little bit about if you really want to deepen in material and you're already a patron of the Container podcast, so you have all our content, then this is like, yeah, it's so rich, the stuff you've put together and the fullness of the offering. It's it's not just technical and it's not a lot of stuff in this field can be insubstantial to a certain part of my being, and
Hmm.
this does not. It's very substantial to a lot of aspects. So that's my
Nice.
yeah, that's my first impression. And it's just sort of how it's hitting me.
It's really nice to hear. Really, really nice. And I also kind of feel seen in mine and Sean's, like, especially connection to myth and movie and story. Um, like Sean from a very early age, like it's a beautiful story. Like in a way, Sean's lack of parental figures caused him to like seek out meaning and clarity and structure in other areas. And he did that in story and in myth and in film. So from an early age, he was looking for the messages in movies and in stories and in mythology. And so he's amazing at drawing out things that we experience in the highest moments in surrendered leadership. It's like, wow, that scene in Lord of the Rings captures that like incredibly, like better than any of the psychological literature we've read or the philosophical literature. That movie scene captures it like better. Like that actually teaches me how to deal with this thing that I've just come across in this circle.
Wow.
And so he's great at like helping people see those things. But the funny story is he would like point these things out in the movies, but then he would get jealous of me because I would burst into tears, or like I would be able to share
Mm.
this thing with someone else. like, um, but he really helped me see those things in movies and learn so much from mythology. And we did a UK festival for the first time this year, set in just outside Glastonbury. So the whole Avalon and King Arthur mythology was there, and I kind of knew this already, but I was realizing I was like, is that a Christian myth or is that a pagan myth? And it's like it's both. It's like mythology is like trans religious in many ways, and we felt that myth of King Arthur and Merlin and all those things like play out in our field, and like almost like that's our best bet of like what our organization is and what we're doing, and that makes it so juicy and exciting to kind of, and the idea of like mythologize rather than pathologize.
Mm.
Like it's easy with a lot of knowledge of trauma and developmental trauma, which is super powerful and important, but to like, it's so easy to get into a pathological framing with that. Whereas if it's like, if you're living myth and your life feels like a myth in some way, or these stories, or you can connect to that at least in some way, it's super rich. Life becomes an adventure, and it's, yeah, there's symbols all over the place. They're hidden in plain sight in some blockbuster movies. It's like not just the mystic on the in the cave that you have to go and see. It's like hidden in plain sight. It's
Mm.
Often, something that we've been working with this summer, our catchphrase for this summer is "God is alive, magic is afoot," which is from a Leonard Cohen poem, and then it's a beautiful song too. Uh, and the more and more I feel into what that really is, I'm just connecting to what you're saying about there's these messages all over. And I think a magical worldview really is just listening. It's just listening to all of the messages you're getting and not being so myopic about what you consider a message that has information that's worth, you know. I think the scientific materialist, um, I think most scientists actually probably of any sophistication don't have this view, but sort of the unsophisticated way it filters down is a very limited kind of thing you are allowed to listen to as information. And that something surrendered leadership really gets your muscles worked out on is just like what isn't good information, what isn't talking to me. Yeah, and
and
the mm,
exactly, and like when we stop going through those channels so much, what other channels open up?
hmm
Like just the pair practice of having two people be together in silence, and like maybe looking in each other's eyes while that's comfortable, and just being in silence and not having all the, like, what can open up from that is amazing. It's like it's native to us, all these other things, but if we get trapped in one radio channel, we don't, yeah, get to experience all the others.
Then that has me wondering too about as a um the sort of the other side of the practice from listening and receiving. Um, there's this implied other side of the practice of doing in those other channels too, which feels also very magical. Like I couldn't think of
Expressing,
huh?
expressing, that is the word that comes up, like, as opposed to doing, or maybe along
Mm.
with doing. Does that resonate? Or what's it for you?
Expressing it is interesting because there's a way that expressing yourself can have all sorts of displays, or it can interact with the world in all sorts of ways.
Penetrating.
Penetrating, yeah. But I'm thinking about can you go in a surrendered leadership space and do magic of a kind? Do, John Thompson, as a leading expert in the field, do you feel capable or open that in a surrendered leadership space you could access the kind of magic of protection or um, manifestation or uh, illusion? Yeah, like the magical powers we hear about from saints to yogis to like occultists, this shamans, like these kinds of powers to express yourself. Yeah, is that available?
Something's happening. It's, I don't relate to like doing magic or being a magical person necessarily any way more than anyone else. But like I do really relate to magic happening in Serenity Leadership, or like that's why I do it. That's why I've been so relentless doing it for nearly 15 years. It's because of my experience of magic. It's like it's the unveiling that happens of magic, but it's hidden in plain sight. It's like it's not doing magic. It's like magic gets revealed. There's already magic here, but we were just veiled to it, that kind of thing. And that's how it occurs for me anyway. Like I get to taste and witness incredible things that feel like 10 times more real and important than other things in normal life. And I let those things guide me, and I feel incredibly grateful to have so much of that. But I'm less on like trying to manifest something, or I do kind of believe in that in some way, or like how it seems to like with my creative energy, things seem to respond to my creative energy. It just seems like a law somehow. And I
Mhm.
feel really lucky that when I birth something that has genuine creative heart to it, I seem incredibly lucky that there's a response to it. And if
Mhm.
there isn't much response, then it's like, oh, go deeper into your creative process, like distill further. Or so I do believe in kind of alchemy and manifestation, but it's not things that I would do consciously.
It's like I've heard this adage or something that the rainmaker is not making rain. The rainmaker is just really good at going where it's going to rain. Like, and he
Right,
doesn't know why he's so good at that. He just wherever he goes, it does rain.
right,
And so it's because he's in the field of the rain or something versus, doing a ritual but he does the ritual when he gets there
right,
because he needs everyone to see that he's the rainmaker. Like, but he knows that he's not actually doing it. Yeah.
I noticed there's this part of me that's very, um, yeah, there is this part of me that wants to climb up in a tower with a bunch of books and just figure it out and be like, I'll get back to you guys, but we can we can make it work here. I know it. I know the things that are available within an hour of introducing someone to surrendered leadership, the things that become available and the things I've seen happen. It's like what could be unlocked. Yeah, and then I'm thinking about this 6 month odyssey we're having with SAS coming up. And at that depth, I just can't imagine there isn't some sort of, I don't know, emergent magical practice that gets the goods, you know? I don't know, but maybe that's just my psychotic individual, like, yeah, um, thing.
am I right in like hearing your ambition to for these practices to reach more people, or for me more people to get the benefits of it? Or is it like I'm curious like of your mission that I think I'm hearing a bit of. I wonder what the
Hmm. Hmm. Mm, I have I have a mission to communicate the practices, but I mean, that's obviously like the container to some degree is wanting to feed people who are a lot of it's for people who are already aware of the practices but want to go and, talk, hear from John Thompson about it or, um, or anyways, but so like that's a component of it. But right now, what I'm really aware of and mission bent on is like somehow using the emergent magical space of surrendered leadership to for like ceremonial and magical ends for really, can we create a channel where we like bring up all that energy and then we're able to enter into ritual in some sort of um conscious way. I don't even know what it looks like, but I've had so many visions recently of that this can work. I think we can do this, and I don't know how, but the research I don't think has been done that I know of. Um, yeah, I don't know. So doing that research and then sharing it far and wide is a mission, I guess.
It's interesting because it reminds me there's been a few endings to SASs that have been like that, like collective ritual that have just been like, what the fuck? Like, what the, like, we had one last year. It was actually the London SAS last year. It was like, I decided to put this one song on that happened to be a Christian song on, and then some like surrender, the theme of surrender came up, and someone just like surrendered for their first time in their life in a particular way. And it was just like a co created ending of just like religious proportion. And then the next SAS I led, I was like, on the last day, I was like, I want an ending like that, and how can I find it? And then I'm like, oh, what is this? What is this need? What's missing? And like, so it's so like if I and the other day I was leading with someone, and the circle was kind of quite chill, and I was just so happy with it, and someone else was like, oh, I want there to be a magical thing, and like I'm like, why? This is just, see what's happening. There's just so much beautiful connection, and so it's such an edge, like that desire for that thing, and then the how that can get in the way if or like that's just part of it, I guess, as well.
There's also this like non-linear like growing suspicion in me that ritual really is the emergent is the thing that emerges, and then people were like, "Oh, this is what we were doing when that magical thing happened, so we have to do it exactly the way we did it
Right.
last time, and then it'll happen again." And so it's like this misordering of it's like the ritual is like the orgasm. It's like the thing that happens because of the magic, not to make the magic happen.
There's a yeah, there's like an addiction component when I hear you, but both of you synthesizing that. Yeah, it's the you have this experience and then you have it. You're grasping for it again, and so then you're repeating the things that got you it the first time, sort of like
We
a
did that
kink
we
or
did that with Rob on the podcast once, remember? Or in the early days when
oh yeah,
we all got into this like really like super mystical state, and we were like, okay, what did we do? And so
yeah,
we tried to like you know,
right, recreate it.
recreate it, but you could see how continuously recreating that would make a ritual, and then thousands
Right.
of years later, it's like this is how you do it.
Yeah.
But that is against like what you want. But I also understand that you want it to be that magic is a certain way. I want magic to be the way you want it to be. I actually do want that, like,
Yeah.
deeply.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm here for it too. I'll do the rituals. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know what to say. it was an experience of synchronicity that did start this off for me and Sean like 22 years ago or something. And I don't feel I need that now. Like I love leading this work on so many levels, on a more kind of down to earth human level. But it's definitely that kind of magical synchronicity type, otherworldly type stuff that definitely keeps the spark. I don't feel I'm chasing it, but it's just so cool when it comes and when it shows up. I think I actually experienced that stuff less than I did. Like there was a period 7 or 8 years ago when it was just like a lot of that, and it's I wouldn't say I miss it. I think there was some grounding needed or something. But yeah, there's just levels to it. Like so there was moments at the festival last year when I like there's a very real context for the festival of like it's my organization that's leading it. I'm the main leader there. There's other leaders who you've all paid to be there, and that's super real, that context, and I would never deny that. But there were certain moments where it's like I'm not leading this. Like there's other people who have come here with certain frequencies of being, and like this is some gathering of some ancient thing that's like, and I've been doing my leader play, and they're like almost like smiling at there's John doing his thing and enacting that.
Mm.
Oh. Mm.
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 It has me think of Göbekli Tepe, the like oldest built stone structure that we know of out in Turkey. Um, that has these beautiful carved stone columns. It's an enormous complex that was built over generations. And the people who built it, from what we can tell, they didn't have cities. They didn't settle anywhere. But apparently, tons of groups of humans would come together at certain points at this hill and celebrate. And there is this, like, thinking about the festival, there is something special about people coming together for a limited amount of time. It's a kind of community that um, it only forms quite that way once. It's not continuous like if you had a settlement, it or even a band. It's not
Mm.
continuous. It's this coming together and a peak and then a leaving. And yeah, there's something that touches in me this very ancient knowing we have in each other that we're supposed to do that. We're supposed to come from all different countries and all different directions and come here in the same place to have this temporary time that is, yeah, passing and beautiful, all the more so because it will be cast into the wind.
And yeah, it's got a life of its own. I remember that the evening of the first festival, I almost had a panic attack because I had this realization of like I can't control this. Like I've advertised this
Mm.
thing, and I should be able to control it, and I've done this program, and like this realization of like this has got a life of its own, and it's going to take me, and I might. It's probably a good idea for me to surrender to that because, and yeah, and it's so rich to have that in our lives, like a place where we get taken and we get shown our next things, and we have to face the things that we haven't been able to face yet, and we get to celebrate together and come together and commune and love and awaken.
that last frame really helped highlight for me what is so surprising often about these kinds of experiences is I think when you're buying the ticket and you're getting the plane ticket and you're packing, you're sort of imagining it's going to be this uninterrupted, sort of mildly to massively euphoric span of time, or that it's going to be really fun. But my experience at the at the festival last year was not, it wasn't like, I mean, there were moments of fun, but it was also extraordinarily challenging at times and confronting and humbling, and then there were moments of like cosmic orgasm and incredible stuff, but that stuff's not really fun either. It's not like, it's not like we, it's sort of challenging and you're in surrender, and it's like, if I'm not in surrender, I'm gonna be in a panic attack, but I'm in surrender, so we're good. It's like, yeah, it's so intense. I guess it's so intense. It's like, yeah, I don't know that, and that is part of, that's kind of what we play for, is that kind of intensity in those spaces.
And to be able to pay it forward.
Mm.
It's like I so deeply want to be able to pay it forward or something, like to show up and hold space and hold like for others.
Mm.
And for the children, for my children.
Yeah. There's
For the children.
For the children, folks. There really is. There's this like subtly revolutionary side to surrender leadership, of changing yourself and changing the ecology of things that you find yourself in, of beings. Hmm.
I feel like we've like
Feels,
We peaked.
yeah. Um, before we end, I'm curious how people can find more John Thompson, how they can learn more from this an incredible school that you've created, and school like in the grandest sense of it. That's like a real spiritual path.
Yeah. There's something strange about saying like transformationalconnection.com or transformational connection on YouTube, which is true. But it's also part of like my, like, you wanted to explore kind of what's my edge a little bit this in this call. And on the last day of the festival this year, me and Sean are going to do a workshop on like what's next for this practice, this community, this organization. And there's something in me of like proud of the organization and happy with the organization, and like what's happening is more than the organization. There's a community, and there's a practice, and there's a mutual desire for it to spread, or for it to reach places where it's going to benefit. And like, yeah, it's a movement, and what's going to be next and how. So that's what matters to me most.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. And with that, the container is now closed. You're gonna take us outside.
Keep it namaste.